Welcome to Ode to Games. My name's Logan Plant, joined today by Zach Rost. Hello, Zach.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
It's going well. We're also here with Kevin Valine. Hello, Kev.
How's it going, Logan?
It's going great because we got a lot to talk about this week. One of the bigger weeks in the news once again here early in 2022. Another big acquisition to talk about. New sales numbers for Nintendo Switch and a bunch of Nintendo first-party games, including how did Metroid Dread sell in its first few months? And MLB The Show coming to some new platforms. So let's get right into it. And of course, Rumor Roundup is on the way.
Comes at the end.
Looking forward to that.
At this point, they just expect that. That's every week.
Always.
It's the cherry on top of
No
every
matter
season.
how hot the rumor is.
It's pretty good this week.
It's pretty hot?
It's not a rumor. It's real. It is
okay.
real stuff.
It's one,
so
it's one
I'm
of
looking
these
forward to
news
that.
items that we talk about
You hear so
sometimes.
much about, but so rarely actually come along. Yeah. We're already a month into Rumor Roundup. Only 11 to go. Maybe more if this thing gets pushed.
And within the first month, we talked about, quill length? So you know that we talk about only quality
the top notch.
on Rumor Roundup.
Okay, we're not leading with Rumor Roundup, though. We are leading with the fact that Sony and PlayStation have bought Bungie, developers of formerly Halo, now currently known for Destiny, for $3.6 billion. So a big acquisition already for Sony, just a couple weeks after Microsoft's big acquisition of Activision Blizzard. A couple things to note here with this one. Bungie's going to continue to act independently, so they'll be able to still publish to whatever platforms they want. They've confirmed that Destiny will remain multi-platform, and other products going forward will also remain on things like Xbox and PC. And it seems like a big focus of this is that PlayStation's trying to get more into live service games. They're going to use some of Bungie's technology to work on their live service output. And they've also talked about how they plan to launch more than 10 live service games by 2026. We also know this was not a retaliation to the Activision Blizzard acquisition. This has been in the works for about 6 months. So another big acquisition. This one feels a lot different, though, than the Activision Blizzard one, Kevin.
It feels more to me like Minecraft was for Xbox.
Absolutely.
Where you're kind of just buying that brand, and it doesn't really matter if it's on multiple platforms or not, but you have a presence on other platforms. And I feel like that's going to be something that could help Sony out. And, of course, part of the money that Bungie gets for Destiny goes right back to the parent company. Yeah, when I first saw it, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Just kind of like a gut reaction thing, like $3.6 billion just for Destiny at this point. But it makes more sense now, knowing the direction that Sony wants to go with their ideas about live service games, quality of that plan notwithstanding. But
yeah,
with how successful Destiny has turned out to be, and Bungie knowing the ins and outs more of a live service game, and they've gone through the stumbles with that original Destiny and part of Destiny 2, I think that for Sony's plan, it will be quite helpful to have Bungie there to help them out with this plan to have 10 live service games in the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at PlayStation's stable of games is mostly known for behind-the-shoulder, third-person, action-adventure, cinematic, story-driven. Those are some of the words that come to mind. And so I think that even if live service games aren't necessarily the type of games people like us are into, they're immensely popular, and it does make sense for Sony to try to get some of those under their own umbrella. So I think it's a smart move to try and just diversify their portfolio a little bit, because they have been known and to some extent criticized by some people for offering a lot of the same stuff across all their studios. So I agree that at first, just the idea of it being just Destiny doesn't make a lot of sense to start. But then knowing that they are going to kind of use this acquisition as a launch pad into more live service territory, I think it's smart overall, and I think it's better than Bungie being scooped up by someone like Amazon or Google, which is always something you have to think about when you look at these big acquisitions. It's not just Xbox, Nintendo, Sony anymore. It's all these big companies that could scoop up someone like Bungie and completely change the direction of their business. So overall, I think it's solid for both sides.
Be kind of funny,
No,
though.
I don't want to play a Stadia.
Xbox originally bought them around 2000 when Halo first came out, and they were there for 7 or 8 years, and then they're like, no, we want to go independent, and then they went independent for a number of years. The other funny thing is that they went to Activision, who then went to Xbox, so it's all weirdly connected in a way.
Yeah.
But, it's something to think about of, how long will it last? Is this going to be a a more of like a forever thing, or is it going to be like Bungie and Xbox's relationship where they're together for a while and then, Bungie wants to move on? Like, just be interesting because they've been through something like this a couple decades ago.
Yeah, Zach, how about you? Anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I know. It just seems weird timing because Bungie seems like such an Xbox brand at this point, given its history with the Halo franchise, that does kind of seem like retaliation. But like you said, this has been in the works for some while. So definitely just coming off the heels of such a big acquisition from Microsoft, I think this is a bit of a coincidence. But they did say, I believe the president of Sony said that moving forward, they will be doing more acquisitions this upcoming year. So we have to keep our eye out to see what else they buy. Anything is up for grabs. Like, I don't know what's going to get swallowed up next, but if they are focused on a more live play future, I would look more towards those kind of studios. So who knows, maybe like Take-Two, Grand Theft Auto's like
oh my gosh,
That'd be
the
wild.
last 10 years. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5 has just been basically, the online is all anyone's ever cared about. So
yeah.
I mean, I
There
hope it
was
doesn't
live
snowball
play.
that far, where it's like, Take-Two gets scooped up, and then EA gets
it's probably
scooped
really
up.
expensive.
I don't
Yeah.
think all of that will happen, but there could be
Yeah.
another a huge acquisition on the horizon for either of the companies.
I really don't want it to be Square or Capcom. I want them to stay independent. They make totally different games for the PlayStation crowd versus like the Switch crowd, and so to see that be ripped away from Switch specifically, you'd miss out on a lot of cool stuff, I think. That would kind of go away. And I don't think that's in either of their best interest either. Square Enix and Capcom publish a ton of games on Switch. I don't think they want to stop. Monster Hunter Rise just sold ridiculously well. You've got games like Bravely Default 2, Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy comes out in a month that they're partnering with Nintendo on for these things that also have been selling well. So a company has to want to sell for these acquisitions to happen. I don't think those two want to. Those are the two big ones that I see everyone being like, oh, Sony's going to go buy Final Fantasy and own Square Enix. It's like, I don't really think so.
I don't think
that's
Square
gonna be a
Enix
thing.
would sell. I don't see why they would. They're pretty proud and they're doing their own thing right now, so I don't see it happening. And Capcom's probably pretty expensive now with Monster Hunter being as successful as it is in the West now.
It's huge,
so.
yeah. Destiny's big. Like this is a big deal. Destiny's a really widely played game still today.
I think this deal showed me how popular it still is. I knew a lot of people still played it, but yeah, the numbers that it's still pulling in with new expansion packs, it's been out for a while. I know that we joke about how the original Destiny, when it came out, they're like, we want to support this for 10 years. And it's like, it's hard to support anything for 10 years. And I don't think they're going to do it for Destiny 2 that long. But Destiny 2's got legs.
Yeah, it's already been 5 years, right? It was a 2017 game, I believe.
so,
Yeah.
And Destiny 2 only came out because Activision forced them to make a sequel. So if you really think that they've been supporting the Destiny universe, we're coming up on 10 years. Only 2 years away from that mark. And yeah, new expansion's coming out this month, I believe, on the 25th. And yeah, I think it's just going to keep going. And another angle of this is Sony's making its huge push into transmedia franchises like movies, television shows, based on its video game properties. So this could make it easier for Destiny TV shows or a Destiny movie to be something that would happen. And I know that Destiny fans are super into the lore of that series, so that could be something that Sony ends up working on too.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's something Bungie wants to do as well. One of the big things they were talking about with the acquisition is like, yes, this will give us more ability to branch out into a actual multimedia company beyond just games. So we'll see, what that means with TV shows or movies or books. I don't know. Like, they probably have a lot of options to available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that is the biggest news of the week. Let's move on to some other stories. Just coming in tonight, as we're recording, Nintendo's announced its newest financials. We know that the Switch has sold 103 million units. It has passed the Nintendo Wii and become Nintendo's most successful console ever. It's the fastest console in history to get to the 100 million mark. So just an insane success. Nothing new there. We've already known how crazy well the Switch has been doing. On the flip side, the PS5 just outsold the Wii U, which gave me a good laugh this week. But yeah, it just keeps on selling. Just, man, unbelievable. We also got some Switch software numbers. Your top 10 are Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at a whopping 43 million units.
That's crazy.
Unbelievable
Insane.
numbers. It's almost a 50% attach rate. 43% of Switch owners have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is just crazy. And I know it's been a pack-in game every Black Friday since the Switch has existed.
Probably helps.
But still, 43 million, it's just crazy. Every holiday season, you see it creep up to number 1. Number 2, Animal Crossing New Horizons at 37 million.
That's even crazier than Mario Kart 8 because that has not been a pack-in for anything. I guess besides those special edition bundles. I don't remember if it was a digital copy.
I don't know if
I don't even think the game came with
it
that.
Didn't come with the game.
Okay, then that's even crazier. 37 million just for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is number 3. Continues to set records as the best-selling fighting game ever. It's at 27 million. Breath of the Wild is far and away the best-selling Zelda game of all time at 25 million. Sword and Shield Pokemon, 23 million combined. Super Mario Odyssey, 23 million. Super Mario Party, 17 million.
That's wild.
This is crazy. Pokemon Let's Go 14. New to the top 10, just out last November. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl at 14 million units in a month and a half. Oh my gosh. And then Ring Fit Adventure, which is, I think, the surprise no one saw coming, especially when it came out. People were like, oh, this is a weird experimental fitness thing, but it struck lightning just like Wii Fit did, 13 million. So those are your top 10. We also have a couple of totals for some new games. Also, Splatoon 2 was bumped out of the top 10 for the first time since it came out. So Splatoon 3 now can swoop in there, maybe,
the time.
if it sells a bunch. The big one I was waiting for, a lot of people were waiting for, Metroid Dread sold almost 3 million, 2.75 million. It's only a few 100,000 away from already being the best-selling Metroid game in the series history. So that's a big success for that series and tells me we're going to see more in the future. Mario Party Superstars, 5.43 million. Super Mario 3D World, nearly 9 million. Luigi's Mansion 3 has passed 11 million.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. Crazy numbers. WarioWare, 1.2 million. Did not sell super well, but over 1 million is still a success. It's just like compared to these other numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Monstrous numbers.
Game Builder Garage, 1 million you people bought that.
I forgot about that completely.
Yeah.
Me too.
Miitopia, 1.63 million, and New Pokemon Snap, 2.36 million, and Mario Golf Super Rush managed 2 million, and Skyward Sword HD, 4 million units. So those are your totals for all of last year's games through December, and it's already been another month since then. So these numbers are already a month old.
Already changed again.
It's just absolutely wild. I am very happy specifically about the Metroid sales because we didn't know how it was doing. It wasn't topping the eShop charts or the Amazon charts, and to see it already practically be the best Metroid has ever done is a big relief because that game is just fantastic.
Nice to see good games backed up with good numbers, even though number 10 not so much. Yeah, and 3D World getting into 9 million people's hands. It's good. We use Best Game Stranded finally gets a second chance, and almost 10 million people go out and get it in its first year. I was really happy with that one too. WarioWare, a little underwhelmed by that total, especially because they launched it at a cheaper price point. It was $10 cheaper than full retail, and it still only pushed 1 million units. So they're proud. That series might maybe take a break for a while after those numbers, but overall, it's just unbelievable to see what the Switch is doing, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. Yeah, it is crazy to see the attach rate on some of these. Like, you think back to the Wii, and it sold really well, especially for those first couple of years. But beyond those, like core couple of titles, you got Wii Fit, and Wii Sports, and Mario Kart Wii. It really wasn't like a whole lot on there that was just like blowing up the charts. Like people would buy it for like 2 or 3 casual games, and then that was it. So it's nice to see that there's kind of a wider range of titles that are selling very well, and very different situation than the Wii was. Yeah, absolutely. And it just feels different this time. Like, you never know what could happen, but it just doesn't feel like you were saying the audience is going to go away for the next machine like they did from Wii to Wii U. I feel like this generation, gaming in general, is just way more mainstream
than it was a decade ago, especially because of the pandemic. I think a lot more people play games now. So I have confidence that as long as it's not called something stupid and marketed extremely poorly, I don't
Switch
think we're
Plus.
going to see a big flop the next generation with Nintendo. I think they've got a strong fan base. These numbers are really, really strong. It's just numbers in the tens of millions don't even surprise us anymore for their game sales. It's just crazy and really cool to see, especially as someone who trudged through the Wii U era, as you all know very well by now. Just to see that like all of the top 10 games on Switch have outsold the Wii U itself. That's
crazy,
pretty
yeah.
unbelievable. So yeah, those are the numbers. I'm sure Pokemon Company is going to announce some Legends Arceus numbers soon, but that thing is sat at number 1 for the last like 3 weeks on pre-order. On the eShop, on Amazon, it's been number 1. I've saw pictures of people lining up out GameStop, so that game is selling extremely well too.
It's got Pokemon on the cover.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
true.
That's all that matters.
And speaking of games that are going to sell well, I'm here to tell you that MLB The Show 22 is going to be the best-selling baseball game ever made. It's coming to Switch for the first time ever. It's also going to be on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and Xbox Series X and Xbox One. And the cover athlete is Shohei Ohtani, who's the most popular baseball player in the world right now. First time ever on a Nintendo platform for MLB The Show. And it's coming out on April 5th.
Did you see the special edition box art?
I did. It's really cool. It's this anime manga drawing of Shohei Ohtani as if he's a superhero holding a bat in one hand, a baseball in the other. It looks really fantastic.
Wouldn't pay $85 for a sports game, but maybe if, a couple of years down the line, find a copy of that. It looks really nice. But yeah, nice to see a real sports game on a Nintendo platform. Especially recently, It's just been RBI Baseball, which is literal trash. Like
Super Mega Baseball is an outstanding series. It just doesn't have real players, so it doesn't gain the traction it should. Because it's the most fun I've had in a baseball game since Power Pros. Like it feels like Power Pros and how it plays in a lot of ways. It just doesn't have the actual franchises to lift it up.
That's why Power Pros was the best. It only lasted 2 games. But yeah, it's a big deal. It was already a super big deal when it came to Xbox last year, because that, it's Sony. It's so associated with PlayStation to reach a whole new audience on Switch. I do wonder how it's going to run, especially that first time out, because if you're developing for PS5, you could probably swap over to Xbox pretty easily, but they never had to develop this for like the Wii, like 2K did, or the Wii U. They haven't really had to develop for a really underpowered console. So we'll see how it translates. I could see the first year of it being kind of rough, at the very least at launch. But it's just nice that all platforms will get to experience it, and one platform doesn't get left out in the cold with crummy baseball games.
Yeah, I'm really happy that it is MLB The Show 22 is getting a Switch version, not MLB The Show Nintendo Switch version,
Legacy
like
Edition or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever EA does with FIFA.
It has been an absolute disaster what FIFA has been doing on Nintendo Switch. It's just literally from one year to the next, it was the same game with an updated logo, like identical, like even more so than usual.
Logo and rosters, wasn't that it? Basically, just like a roster update.
Yeah, so because like the menus were the exact same, everything was the exact same year over year, which is even more egregious than sports games usually are. So to see that it is on the same like advertisement promo sheet as the PlayStation version and Xbox version gives me faith that it is going to have similar content. And as for how it's going to run, they could have put it out on Switch last year. Last year they put it on Xbox for the first time. So I'm hoping they've been working on a Switch version since 2 versions ago when they started development for the Xbox and other platforms. So I'd like to think it's had enough time, but kind of a weird thing right now. If you've been following baseball at all, like Kevin and I do very closely, it's not happening right now because there's a disagreement between the players and the owners causing to a work stoppage. And that makes it so MLB isn't promoting any of its players. So that's the very short of it. But I was surprised that we could even see who the cover athlete was, Kevin, because of everything that's going on in MLB right now. I don't know
There's got to
who they need
be
to
a
get permission for
special
to show this.
circumstance that it's going to be in, because I think they're going to be launching it at the normal time, like they do like they did in the pandemic season. If you didn't watch baseball or any sports, a lot of seasons got pushed back, but the games came out at the same time, and you were playing it like a normal season. I feel like they can do it again here. There must be something where it's not necessarily MLB. I'm not exactly sure how it all works, but
the weird thing is here, Kev, they haven't shown any gameplay or screenshots. They just announced the cover athlete. They haven't shown the game yet, and it comes out in 2 months. It's coming out on April 5th. So I have to think they just aren't allowed to right now.
But they
so
wouldn't
I'm
be able
really
to show...
curious to see what happens.
We're getting a little bit into the weeds here with this lockout situation, but
I know
they shouldn't even be able to show Shohei Ohtani, because the rules that they have is just you can't show any current players. So if they can't do that, they shouldn't be able to show Shohei Ohtani. But maybe if he's a superhero on the special edition cover, it's not technically. I don't know.
But they showed him on the regular cover too, and they had a trailer with like highlights from last year. It's just weird. We won't get into it too much. That's more of a baseball discussion. I actually talked about it on my baseball show earlier today. So I've talked about MLB The Show twice today. But yeah, so it's cool to see it coming to Switch. I'm curious to see what happens if it comes out, if it'll have all the players like it should, or if it'll need some roster update later on. But I'm sure it'll be fine.
Okay. Let's hope that it launches on the same date. I feel like a number of higher profile Switch games that were getting launched on other platforms, their Switch versions had to get pushed back. So let's hope.
Yeah, it's set to right now, and it's only 2 months away. So it'll be a pretty tight window.
I mean, what? Yeah. It was Dying Light 2, which just came out, and the cloud version, I believe, was going to be coming out for Switch. And they announced the delay to the Switch version within like a month.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
So...
Yeah.
Just happened to Life is Strange Remastered too.
Yeah,
everything came out on time, but the Switch version.
Yeah, the timing
it got delayed.
They can be really close on that. So hopefully it launches day and date.
Yeah. April 5th. If you're a Switch owner and that's all you have, and you're a big baseball fan, then you should be pretty excited about this. It's cool to see. I just hope it runs well and it's content complete and it's not like FIFA. It's not EA, it's Sony. So I have a little more faith in it to be a good product. But we'll still have to wait and see. You never know with these multi-plat games on Switch, like you were just saying. Here's a story that really interests this podcast specifically, and that is that It Takes Two, Game of the Year 2021, is getting an adaptation for both movie and television. Neither project has a home yet. It's being written by two of the writers of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which this panel very much enjoys. But they're still looking for either like a channel or network to partner with, or a streaming service, and for a studio for if there's a movie version. So very early on in the works. It's just started production in the most early stages. But really the takeaway here is that It Takes Two is the weakest part. The story is the weakest part of the game. And now it's going to get an adaptation that's purely story.
I'm really interested to see how they run with it, because for the most part, if they go live action, it's going to be like actors for like 10 minutes, and then they're going to have to like animate some dolls the rest of the show, and that's going to be really weird. So you think they would just go full animation with the thing, but it's going to be weird to see how they play it.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, because the two main characters were some of the most insufferable characters I've ever watched in a game.
Absolutely.
Like, we're looking at other properties. Like Uncharted makes a ton of sense because it's basically a Hollywood movie. Sonic is weird until you remember that he's already had so many TV shows and comic books, and so they can like do their own thing with the stories. And that's a franchise, so I feel like it kind of opens it up more. There's a lot of different ways to go there. It Takes Two is a singular game that has an incredibly weak story. Most people commend it for its two-player, its multiplayer. That is its calling card, is that, it's a multiplayer game that not a lot of other multiplayer games have that same style of just like two players playing these puzzles and things. That there's not too many games that are like that. That's basically what it has. The story is not good. Why would you be thinking that it would work well for film and TV? I just don't get it.
Yeah, me neither. And I feel like it was clear even to the developers that the story was the weakest part. I don't know. I guess it was up for best narrative at
Which
the
is
Game Awards, which is an
still
aggregate
hilarious
of
to me.
90 critics, 90 different outlets across the world. So maybe people like the story more, but I have mostly seen that people trash the story, deservedly so, and yeah, commend the gameplay. Is it going to be a straight adaptation? Is it just going to take place within that world? Like, I have no idea. It's not even like it's a world you can return to, because it was just like their house. It was just like Cody
book.
May's house.
I feel like the book might be the connecting character in this multiverse. He is the worst character.
He is
Yes.
the worst character by far in that game. Yeah,
I don't know what they're doing, and I can't say I have any level of excitement for it whatsoever.
We're gonna have to hate watch it. We're gonna have to have a watch party.
Yeah.
Watch this thing. Yeah. Oh, Zach and I never talked about watching the second Monster Hunter movie. We should remember that for
There's a
later.
second wait, what?
It was an
Yeah, there
animated,
was an
Netflix
animated
one.
one
Oh,
about
recently?
one of the characters from Monster Hunter World.
Came out last year.
Oh, is it any good?
It's terrible.
No.
It's
Was
really
it worse
bad.
than the live action one?
No.
It was bad in a different way.
Yeah.
It was more faithful to the world of Monster Hunter, and the monsters were cool. The animation looked like Shrek 1. Like, it looked so horrendous.
So
for
it
being a
would have
movie
looked
that came
great
out
in
last year.
2001.
Yes.
Would have looked decent in 2001.
Yeah. And it was only 58 minutes long,
Ooh.
which is
So
funny.
feature length.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, we watched that. It was fine. It Takes Two, we'll probably have to watch out of curiosity, and it'll be years before we know what this actually is.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thing.
Yeah.
Like,
This
I
game's
hope they
gonna die
don't make
down
a direct
tremendously.
sequel. But the way that this studio's been going is they're just making these multiplayer games, but kind of have standalone games. Like, if these things take, let's say, 4 or 5 years to come out, will people really either remember A or B really care all that much?
Yeah.
You would have to
know.
assume that if it really goes forward with these film and TV projects, that they'd probably make a sequel.
Yeah, I get trying to capitalize on something's popularity while it's hot, but by the time it comes out, right, it's not going to be hot anymore. I think that It Takes Two is one of those games where in 10 years, it'll be like a pretty good trivia question. What won Game of the Year at the Game Awards in 2021? Because usually you can reason it out. You're like, 2017 Zelda, 2018 God of War, by far the most talked about games in those years. But you'll be like, 2021, I don't know. I don't know what won.
Forza Horizon 5?
Yeah.
No.
So I think
Dread?
that
No.
I think in 3 or 4 years, by the time we actually see what this is, It Takes Two will have been forgotten by most, and the people who remember it will be like us.
Yeah,
who don't
exactly.
like it.
More out of spite.
Yeah, so that's bizarre. But moving on from that one, a couple of PlayStation games got some big news announcements. Gran Turismo 7 already had its state of play. It's coming out early next month. And then Ghostwire Tokyo, the Bethesda published game that is coming as a timed PS5 exclusive, as well as PC, got a release date. It's coming out March 25th, but the showcase event for it is the day after we're recording this, so we haven't seen any of its gameplay reveal yet. But that is the horror-inspired action-adventure from the developers of The Evil Within. It was announced back a long time ago, same time around Deathloop. Like, Deathloop and Ghostwire were announced pretty similar times, and it was also shown off in the PS5 reveal event in June of 2020, and it got another trailer last year, but it's coming out soon, March 25th.
Yeah, that
March
sooner
is
than expected.
stacked. People are like, February's so busy, February's so stacked. Like, no, it's March. It's secretly March that has more games coming in.
What's going on in March? Because what? Feb is Horizon and Elden Ring would be the
Elden
top
Ring.
2.
Yeah.
Fighters.
Elden Ring comes out on the 25th, which is like 3 days away from March. But then in March, you've got Gran Turismo, you've got Kirby, you have Ghostwire Tokyo, you have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and I think there's like 2 other things that I'm forgetting. So it's a pretty big month for AAA games in March. Oh, Triangle Strategy is another one that's coming out. So it's, if you're interested in a lot of these, that's a super busy month. But yeah, I was surprised to see it coming out this soon, just to get an announcement that something's coming out in a month and a half. But Zach, do you have any interest in this game?
Honestly, yes, it has been in the back of my mind for a long time, ever since it first got announced. I kind of forgot about it for a while there, and I haven't seen a whole lot about it. Like, there's been the occasional trailer here and there, but wasn't a huge fan of The Evil Within. I tried out the first one. I never played the second one. At least I believe there was a second one, if my memory is not failing.
Yeah, there is.
There was,
Yeah, okay. It was okay. It was decent. It looked good. And everything I've seen from this trailer, I've thought has looked really cool. So I definitely think I'm going to try it out because, everything else dropping in March, I'll probably play Tiny Tina's, maybe not right away. But yeah, I think this will fit nicely into games. And since it's a PlayStation timed exclusive, I'll just pick it up on PS5 and I'm sure it'll look great.
Stranger of Paradise, the Final Fantasy
Oh my
game,
God.
is also coming out in March. Babylon's Fall, that rough-looking platinum game.
God, that's still
is
coming out
in March.
Man, that was disgusting in its last showcase.
Tunic, that indie,
Oh, yeah.
that Zelda-inspired indie, I'm really looking forward to, is in March. And then this list says Rune Factory 5 is coming out
It
in
does.
March.
Yeah, Rune Factory 5 does come out, the English version.
And I skipped a lot of things that either don't interest the wider public or us on this show, but March just has so much stuff. So I almost feel like maybe they should have just released Ghostwire in April. Like, just give these games some room because, man, it's like we're like in the middle of like a season here in February and March.
I mean, it feels like just this entire year in general has a bunch of stuff that'll be coming out. And
Yeah.
a lot of stuff either that we know of that's coming out or stuff where it's like, yeah, we don't know when it's coming out, but you could see it getting slotted in at any one of these spots. So it's like even if you plan for something to come out at a certain time and like avoid some of the rush, yeah, that might not hold true when the game actually comes out.
Yeah, but we'll talk more about that game next week when we check out the gameplay reveal, which is happening the day this episode goes up. We're just
Good
missing
timing.
it.
Or great timing.
Yep.
On that.
In a game I'm very excited for that is not coming out in March. It's coming out who knows when. Shovel Knight developer, that's Yacht Club Games, has announced a brand new game. It's called Mina the Hollower, and it already had a Kickstarter campaign that was already exceeded its goal, so it's coming. And this is a top-down, 8-bit, very Game Boy Color, Link's Awakening, Zelda Oracle game art style game that also has heavy Castlevania influence in some of its combat. So 2D dungeon exploring game looks awesome.
I didn't know that people like the way the Game Boy Color games looked. Like, I kind of watched this trailer, I'm like, why does it need to look like this? It doesn't look that good.
I really like how it looks.
I guess so, yeah, but I guess it might
Nostalgia.
just not be for me. But yeah, I guess it's really playing on that nostalgia. But yeah, I don't think it looks that great.
Yeah, it's I think it's a cool shift for Yacht Club Games, who was just married to Shovel Knight for so long because they had to be, because they met all of their stretch goals and spent years meeting them all with like 4 different campaigns and spin-offs and multiplayer modes, and they still have some Shovel Knight games in the pipeline. But this game, seeing what they're doing next, people really wanted them to tackle a Zelda just based on what they did with Shovel Knight, and it looks like this is it, but a little more action-oriented. I think the combat looks really neat. It's even though it looks like a Game Boy game, they say it's 60 FPS combat. I think that the pixels look really nice, so I'm excited about this one. Even though it's probably a long ways away, I think that it's probably going to be really good just based on the developer's pedigree.
Yeah, and they have experience doing the whole like retro thing and bringing it to more modern sensibilities with Shovel Knight. So I think it's in good hands. And if they've got a Kickstarter with more goals, they've shown that they meet all those goals. So very easy to fund into that, knowing that you're going to get what everyone pays for.
Kind of weird they needed a Kickstarter, because I'm sure they made a lot of money on Shovel Knight.
Yeah, after you crowdfund your first game and it's a big success, you would think that you could just go forward from there, but crowdfunding a second game, I guess.
I mean,
people are willing
it
to pay
depends
for
on were people with the Kickstarter, were they given any of those other games, or were they all, even if you funded it, you had to pay for all the spin-offs and things?
You were given it all, and you're given.
So maybe that kind of played into it a little bit. Like, I'm sure that they made good enough sales with the games itself, but that probably doesn't help things all that much when you're having to develop all of these other games and a decent chunk of the player base. You're just gonna have to to give them the game for free basically after the Kickstarter. But
it's like a really, really early pre-order, basically, because you get the game if you Kickstart it.
Yeah, and pre-orders, especially now, come with heavy amounts of risk.
Yeah.
So basically it's the same.
And then I think we'll get into our rumor roundup for the week. So we've got a kind of a, not rumors, this is real. Games Radar spoke to Sonic Team's creative officer, Takashi Iizuka. So they did an interview about Sonic Frontiers, so we got some stuff to talk about here. They didn't go into too many details, but the main thing I want to talk about with you guys is that they are trying to really change up the combat in Sonic Frontiers. So basically they said that with Sonic Frontiers, we're challenging ourselves to deliver an all-new style of Sonic action adventure. We're once again expanding the Sonic universe, bringing in new environments and additional features to create a totally new type of open zone experience. So we haven't seen much of this world yet, but they also said that they're focused on bringing Sonic to the next level and ensuring that he's fully represented as the character fans and love, while still making his new form exciting. And they're trying to make his signature speed and characteristics remain consistent across every gaming iteration. With Sonic Frontiers, we'll introduce new combat styles to bring Sonic's signature dexterity onto the battlefield, and new exploration options obviously play into his iconic speedy nature. So, trying to bring some speed into his combat, I want to ask you guys, what do you hope or what do you think some of this combat could end up looking like in Sonic Frontiers?
Man, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking back to all the different combat iterations of Sonic, where it's just like the simple, like, oh, jump on the enemy's head, to the homing attack, to Black Knight's sword, to more hand-to-hand combat that Sonic Boom had. And the best that any of those have gotten, to me at least, is just like, they're there and they're enjoyable, but they're not deep in any way. You're just kind of doing it. And with the homing attack, I think it's the best iteration, where it's just like, it doesn't get in the way too much of the speed, but you're just kind of going along. I guess they could.
You don't want something like the Werehog.
No, you don't want something like the Werehog either.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. In terms
I don't either.
I'm trying to think of how they would bring in the speed element to that.
Yeah,
would it be a thing of more like real time combat where you're using speed to like dodge attacks? And
I thought about that, but then I was just worried that's gonna get really buggy, really glitchy fast, and you're just gonna get hit by things you don't think you should be hit by. I don't know. I worry about that. Something I was thinking about a little bit is something that Returnal does super well and super cool is just this kind of bullet hell style in a 3D environment. And Celine can jump and dash that kind of is like a homing attack, and she can sprint. And so I was thinking something like that could work if it is about avoiding obstacles and making your way to an enemy almost to take them out.
Yeah.
But I just worry that knowing the history of Sonic Team combat, it could be really bad if they try to do something similar.
I mean, that's just in general, if they do something with combat, the odds are it's not going to be very good. Whether they introduce the gun with Shadow, or the Werehog with Unleashed, or Boom's really boring combo combat. Like, none of the combat systems have really worked all that well. But yeah, I guess now that you mention it, Nier Automata has something like that as well, where it's kind of like speed and dodging enemies' attacks with all of these like bullets and trying to get close to do your damage. I could see them doing that.
Yeah.
And that could incorporate the speed more. But I mean, again, if you're talking about how you're worried that it's going to get really buggy, I think that no matter what they do with the combat, there's going to be an inherent risk that it's just not going to work very well. Yeah. Both conceptually and in how the gameplay actually works. But
I want to have faith. I mean, the things that we're hearing here are the things that we heard after Skyward Sword, before Breath of the Wild, when they're like, we're changing everything, but it's still going to feel like Zelda. That's what they're saying here. It worked out very well
Sonic
for
does
Nintendo,
not have that
who I trust significantly more. But just hearing this, I just worry it's going to be a mess in a different form factor. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's some new cool combat style that we're not thinking of that could be really cool. I don't want it to be QTE based. I don't want like 5 button prompts to pop up on the screen. It's like, oh, you got to hit him fast. So it's fast like Sonic. I could see them doing that. Yeah, I don't know how a character like Sonic, where it's about momentum and speed and keeping you going from one thing to the next, should really have combat. It's never been a highlight of any good part of a Sonic game. It's never been combat. There's some good boss battles, sure, but usually the good boss battles are like when you're on endless runways, so you're still running fast. So I just don't see combat as one of those core pillars of Sonic. How about you, Zach? Anything you can think of about, from a combat standpoint, that they could do in Sonic Frontiers?
My mind just went to some of the most recent combat I've done, which was Spider-Man Miles Morales. So I'm picturing Sonic, gotta have like QTE quick dodge. So if an enemy swings at you, you gotta press triangle to like flip out of there, and then you can zip around with your ball form like the spider web, and then you can just it's easy to incorporate. So just make it that combat. It's gonna be great.
Spider-Man combat.
Spider-Man combat.
That's not a bad inspiration, actually. I hadn't thought of Spider-Man.
Could work.
Yeah.
It's just how they implement it.
Just look weird. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but just these quotes that I read you guys, seems like an ambitious project. Just seems really ambitious. It's nice to hear from Sonic Team themselves just a little bit. Really no details, no new concrete things, but just a little bit. And
mostly rumors.
Yeah, mostly
We
rumors.
need those.
Mm-hmm. But that's this week's Rumor Roundups, bringing Sonic's signature dexterity onto the battlefield in Sonic Frontiers.
Very excited, specifically for his dexterity. That's what I remember.
That's the most important part.
I'm more excited for the quill length.
Yeah, did they talk about
I think
that?
that's gonna implement
I thought they
combat.
said that it was gonna be he was gonna be uniform throughout all of his forms, but they're not addressing the quill length. How do you do that?
Yeah, it's not uniform.
What a mess.
Yeah. Zach?
All right. That's going to do it for this week's Rumor Roundup. We'll be moving on to what we've been playing this week. I know for me it hasn't been a whole lot, but there has been a few things. So we'll start with Kevin. Anything new on your end?
Beat a couple games. Mafia 2 is
Pretty good.
done. That game is buggy.
Is it a glitchy ending? Yeah.
No, the ending worked. I don't think I really liked the ending. It was very open-ended, and from what I've heard, Mafia 3 does a very poor job of tying up some of those loose ends that
Nice.
Mafia 2 had, so that's great. The last mission worked, sans, really archaic checkpoints. Yeah.
Also nice.
Yeah, some of the things that they should have updated for that. Again, beyond like the game not working as intended with glitches. There was another time I forgot to mention last week. I parked my car, went into a building, and then I turned the game off. I was like, all right, I'll come back to this. Came back, and then I went out to the car, and the car's door had gotten ripped off somehow, and there was just like some
came
weird,
by.
like glitchy-looking window piece on the side of the car. So that was interesting. But yeah, there was just things that they needed to streamline, specifically the saving system. The fact that you can't save at any point, and you have to wait until certain times when the game saves, like after certain cutscenes at the end of a chapter, especially with how many crashes the game has, is ridiculous. And yeah, the checkpoints can get really annoying, where it's just the start of one combat encounter all the way to like a boss fight of the area. You have to go all the way back to the very beginning of that combat section and do it again. Yeah, beyond the glitches, there was a bunch of stuff that needs to get reworked. The story, I think, is still very good, and I like the characters, and the performances are very good. But and the world is nice when it's not glitching out. But the glue that's holding it together is not really there. So, would not recommend it. Also, tried a bit of the DLC, not very good. There's 3 different DLC packs. The problem is, Mafia's best strength is its story. The gameplay is either passable or not that great most of the time. And there's really no story here. Like, you go do missions, and it is literally just a static image with some text of like, hey, go do this job.
Yeah.
And then you go do this job. And I was like looking it up online. I was like, should I play any of these? And people were like, no, you shouldn't. They're all just like very throwaway. The story doesn't really matter at all. And it gets brutally hard. I'm like, all right, cool.
Hey.
So I'll avoid that. But that's done. Beat the main campaign, which is nice. Beat Overcooked 2 as well. just hung out with some friends and played that through. Never
That game.
hadn't beaten it before.
I love that game.
Yeah,
So
the
bad.
last level was really fun, where it kind of throws everything at you with like all the things you've cooked over a longer period of time, over the 15-minute stretch. Yeah, that game was fun. One of my go-to party games to play with people. Played more Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. It's a nice game to pop in for a couple of levels here and there before playing something else. And then I started Tomb Raider, the 2013
Nice.
reboot. I'm having a lot of fun. Of course, it reminds me a lot of Uncharted, but with its own kind of style. I think with its more open areas and crafting and leveling up system, which, you know, is good and bad. I think it depends on what style of game you like to play. I think Uncharted works really well as its very story-driven linear game, and I think Tomb Raider does well with its own thing of having these optional tombs that you can go to and exploring these more open areas with chances to upgrade things and upgrade skills. I don't think I want that in Uncharted, but I think that Tomb Raider does it well enough that I enjoy it, having it there. And yeah, it just reminds me a lot of Uncharted. You know, I don't think the story's going to be as good and the characters aren't as likable, but I'm still enjoying
Trying to
it a
remember
lot.
the name of the character that I really love. Oh, what was his name? Jonah, I think was his name.
Jonah.
He's a really cool guy. I think he's one of her group.
Vaguely remember
Right.
the name, but I'm only
Yeah,
a couple
you probably-
hours
there's
in,
a lot
so
of them
they
in the
haven't had
first
much
games,
time
though.
to. They get split
not
up
know their
very
names a
early
lot.
on,
Yeah, they do.
so I don't remember a lot of the characters so far.
You
But
use the bow a lot. That was my favorite
I
part.
do,
about Tomb
yeah.
Raider.
The bow combat is really fun. Doing like sneak attacks with the bow is a good time. But yeah, it's fun, and I haven't played an Uncharted game in quite some time, since Lost Legacy came out. I think since me and Zach played Lost Legacy when that came out, so it's nice to have an Uncharted-like game with its own styles that makes it at least somewhat different, so it kind of stands on its own. But yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
Speaking of Uncharted, one of the only things I played this week was Uncharted 4. The PS5 Legacy of Thieves collections dropped shortly after last show. Paid for the $10 upgrade.
Did you get the movie ticket?
No, we
I
didn't.
think it's only if you buy the full version.
Really?
Think
Yes.
so. We both
for it.
bought
I
the
didn't
upgrade.
get it.
I didn't see any email about it or anything.
It's too bad, man. It sounded like you could buy it however, but
I know,
Alright.
weird. It's fine. I'll just get a movie ticket.
I'm not seeing the movie now.
But it was nice because you had to have the physical version, so you couldn't use the PS Plus version to download the upgrade. You actually have to physically own it in order to use the $10 upgrade option. So I installed it on my PS5. I didn't have to install Lost Legacy. I just had to install Uncharted 4. So the $10 upgrade, you only need one of them, but the $10 upgrade gets you both of them. So if for some reason
quite
you
nice.
don't own Lost Legacy, but you only own Uncharted 4, and you do the $10 upgrade, you'll get Lost Legacy for free, which
So
is
in that
really nice.
instance, if you've got the
Yeah, it's
disc,
cool.
you put in the Uncharted 4 disc to play your copy of Lost Legacy.
It's
upgraded
really weird.
which is
Yeah.
cool.
Because at that point, I also had like the PS4 version of Uncharted 4 installed along with the PS5 versions of Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. So I wasn't sure if I could delete my PS4 version because I was using the disc. So I didn't know if every time I put in the disc, it would just try and download the PS4 version. So I just like had 150 gigabytes of
Uncharted?
space taken up by Uncharted, which is fine. I've deleted them now. Yes, but I did play all of Uncharted 4. It didn't
quick.
take me very long because I've played that game half a dozen times, I think, at this point. No, I've talked about it to no end on this show. I think everyone knows that
Deep send.
everyone knows that it's my favorite game of all time,
great time to be
and
an
it is
Uncharted
still that.
That's
trophies.
true.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
we're getting a movie.
The
in the game.
trophies have reset, so I don't have the crushing trophy.
Oh, you got to do
on
it
the PS5
again. Back to the
version.
beach.
Got to the beach and I had like PTSD. And I got really scared, but then I like easily. got
What
through it,
is
and
the
I was like, okay, it's
line? What do
over.
they say when you're like
I
dropping
gotta get
into
down
the
to the
boat?
beach.
Got-
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I heard that about 400 times in that one day.
Every time I got to a level that I was even remotely stuck on, I just had a little bit of like a heart skip. But it was okay. I made it through.
So how is
and
it on
ran
PS5?
really well.
Yeah?
I played it on performance mode, focused on the 60 FPS. It ran really smoothly. Looked really good, but that game has always looked really good. I didn't think it was a crazy huge improvement, but it's definitely worth a $10 upgrade to get that better frame rate. So definitely worth picking up if you have the PS4 copy. I didn't try out Lost Legacy. I don't know if I'm going to. I played that one more recently, I think, than Uncharted 4. But I might just try it out to see how it looks. Still a really good game. But overall,
much more obtainable platinum with no multiplayer trophies.
Well,
speaking of multiplayer trophies, Tomb Raider also has them, and screw multiplayer trophies.
Oh my god, I don't know why.
It's so stupid.
The Last of Us 1 had them.
I think it's that era. Tomb Raider, like
Yeah.
that, like
It is.
2011 to 20.
Don't trade your game into GameStop. Keep it forever.
Even from, I guess, from the start of that generation of 360 with the achievements where they're just like, we can do whatever, and then just did online. I feel like around like 2013 and 2014, thankfully, most of the time those online trophies and achievements died because they are really annoying.
Ghost of Tsushima has them, but you don't need them for the platinum. It's like they're there, but yeah, it's separate for Legends. So if you just do all the single player stuff, you get the plat.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I'm not going to be going for the platinum for painfully obvious reasons. I will not be playing that game on Crushing ever again. I don't think I could, even if I tried. I think I gave it everything I got, and it took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I played with Logan a little bit of Gears of War 2. We haven't played a whole lot of it, but we did sit down and play it for an hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little worried because we played the first one, the remake. Was it from the ground up remake, or was it?
It
like
was a remake. Yeah, it was a remake.
I was expecting the quality to drop significantly. It really didn't.
It runs better.
It runs. It doesn't look as good, but it looks fine and it runs better, which is kind of weird.
It's more important, I think.
Oh, for sure. Because we were playing the Xbox One remake of the first one on Series S, and now we're playing just the 360 version of 2 on Series S with the FPS boost that it just does. It's one of the supported backwards compatible games, and it looks, to me, I think it's a much more pleasing experience to play, because that first one had an unlocked frame rate, and boy did it chug at times. It just chugged to no end in certain sequences, and this one is pretty steady. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, mechanically, it's almost exactly the same with the crouching to have to jump over ledges and the reload system, which we liked. The biggest difference I've noticed is that ammo boxes are significantly less generous with the ammo, which kind of sucks. But other than that, yeah, we haven't gotten super far into it, but I've already liked the areas that we've been into more than I liked for a lot of 1, so I'm enjoying it more so far, and apparently 2 is a lot of people's favorite, so I'm more excited for that reason as well.
Did it skip the opening cutscene this time, or did you see
it? It did not. We saw it. We did have a weird glitch, though. We were on this tank at one point that you can walk around on top of, and there was a turret in the top left corner, and the turret kept glitching like 10 feet to the right for me, so it was like hanging over nothing, and I couldn't even get up to the turret. And Zach's like, the turret is in the exact place it's supposed to be. And so he would walk up the ramp to where it was sitting, and he would hit X to man the turret, and then his character model would glitch 10 feet across the screen and be manning the turret. And I took some screenshots. It was funny. And the other really weird thing we ran into was this launches practically into an Xbox 360 emulator. So you are on Xbox 360 Xbox Live, in which Zach and I were not friends.
I never had it.
We were trying to invite each other, and we couldn't see each other. So you have to hit start and select at the same time to open up the Xbox 360 dashboard menu, and then navigate to friends. And then Kev, you remember what that dashboard used to look like the green and gray keyboard. You type in, I was friends with Zach again on Xbox 360, and then we could invite each other. So that's a really weird backwards thing you have to do to play with friends on.
So is that compatible with 360? Like actual 360?
I think so.
Yeah, probably. That's insane.
So someone plays this on 360 and someone could play it on Series X.
It seems like it.
And
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
360 friends.
That's crazy.
Weird.
I mean, that in a way shows how dedicated they are to backwards compatibility.
Yeah, there was just no explanation. I had to do some digging online
look it
to
up.
figure out how
A
to
little weird.
like hit the two buttons at the same time to open up that old square menu in the middle of the screen to navigate to my friends to add Zach. And Zach has a pound sign or a hashtag in his name, but that didn't exist in 360 names. So I was like, oh no, how do I? And it's smart. It just removed it from his 360 profile. It's just not there.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty smart, but really weird.
It's a little weird.
It's good that it worked in the end, though.
Yep.
But that's pretty much everything that I played for the most part. Some smaller stuff. I'm still working my way through Case 3 of Miles Edgeworth, but I'm much more ground on that. I haven't hit my stride yet. I was talking to Logan about this earlier, is that I play like the first two cases, then I just slow down tremendously and like trudge through the third case, and then I like finish the case 4 and 5 in like a day. So once I hit my stride, I'll finish
It'll
that
just
game.
be done in a day. Basically.
Exactly. So that's about it for me, Logan. Anything else on your end other than Gears of War 2?
Yes, God of War 2018. I've made my way further into it. I just got to the part where the giant is dead on the ground, and you like are maneuvering around his body to like get under the ice for a game that's 4 years old. But it's a really cool area. I really like how that game deals with scale. Like some of the things you encounter are just huge. Like the world serpent is huge and it looks huge, and this giant is enormous, and it really conveys that in a really cool way. So I like that, and I'm starting to unlock more on the skill tree and getting more cool moves that are making the combat a lot easier for me. Kind of struggle with that combat a little bit sometimes. Don't think it's that great a lot of the time, but with some of the stuff I'm unlocking, I think it's a lot better now. So yeah, I'm liking it.
That's so good.
It's fine.
Axe?
Okay.
Other weapons?
I've been going barehanded more. I've been juicing up on my barehanded skills because I love the shield parry. Yeah. It's super cool. Yeah. I also really like that as you level up Atreus, he like starts to participate in the melee combat more. When you're ripping an enemy apart, he'll leap off Kratos' back and shoot an arrow from the air, and it looks really cool. So yeah, the combat's getting a lot better as I'm going on. I found my favorite parts of are the parts all after where I quit last time. Like, man, I quit right before it got pretty good. I still don't love it. I'm still not in love with it. I know you, like Kevin, you liked it, but
yeah, I enjoyed it.
One of those games you go back to a lot. I think that's where I'm at with it. It's vindicating to finally go back and get through this.
Considering that you were the one of the three of us that was the driving force and people picking it up back in the day.
Yep.
With all the games back in the day.
Hey, some work, some don't. I'm also still working my way through Skyward Sword, which I had a lot to say about last week. This week, not much has changed. I have found that the grind I complained about last week about getting to the 4th dungeon was by far the worst offender of that entire game so far. Getting into the 5th isn't nearly as bad. It's actually kind of fun. You're sailing around this like ocean of sand that's really beautiful. And then getting into the 6th wasn't too bad either. There is an escort mission that's a little obnoxious, but it doesn't take too long. So I just beat the Imprisoned for the 2nd time of 3 times, and now I'm going to do some more padding stuff. So we'll see how I feel about that stuff that's drawn out. But yeah, I'm still just really happy I'm playing it. One thing that is fun to see is just how many things were born here that would go on to be fully realized in Breath of the Wild. Things like the sailcloth, where in this game you just tap a button to whip it out when you're falling from a great height so you don't get hurt. And that's it. You can't even steer it. You just hit it and then you just fall straight down and that's it. And then what it would turn into is totally different in Breath of the Wild. Or the stamina system, which makes its debut here and is largely useless, that goes on to be a core foundation of traversal in Breath of the Wild with its climbing. And there's other things too, like equipment management, upgrades, shield durability. There's all these little baby ideas that are really hit or miss in this game that they experimented with here and then totally refined for the next one. So that's really interesting to go back and see how many ideas are we're first seeing here that are not very good here, but it's fascinating.
Got to work out the kinks sometime.
Yeah,
Not everything
that's
works
what
on the
Skyward
first
Sword
go
is
around.
all about. Yeah, it's still a really messy game, but I'm growing more attached to it than I used to be for sure. There's a lot I really love about it, and that is part of it. Just seeing these things that would go on to be much greater 5 years later. It's pretty cool, and it's the same director. This was his first Zelda game directed. He would go on to direct Breath of the Wild, and he's directing Breath of the Wild too. So to see kind of some missteps in the first one that were improved upon, I think that's pretty cool, even if it makes for some aggravating moments, for sure.
Making the first experience not always very enjoyable.
Yep. Yeah, but that's it for me. Skyward Sword, lots of it. I'm 30 hours in.
Jeez.
I'm really close to 100%ing it. I have 4 more heart pieces to go, and the Hylian shield, and then I'll be at 100%.
Wow.
So
You
yeah,
got to
I'm
do
almost
the
done.
the tournament thing for the shield?
Yeah, the boss rush.
Yeah. Mhm.
That you don't get to keep the prizes from on previous rounds?
Yeah,
So
I will.
stupid.
I will flip on a podcast
Yeah.
and grind it out when I get there. Yeah, I even got all the goddess cubes. There's like 2 left that are in areas I don't have access to yet, but I have every other goddess cube, and I have to do a few of the side quests for the villagers that I also haven't unlocked yet. But yeah, that's why I'm already 30 hours in. I've just been doing this stuff as I go, so I don't have to do this big, long side quest session at the end. It's also been breaking up some of the monotony of returning to these areas over and over. I'll take a break today and just do stuff around town and not go back to the forest for like the 6th time yet.
Well, the town is nice, and I love the
It's
villagers
cool.
a lot. So the gratitude crystal quests are actually pretty fun to go through.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been trying to not use a guide at all, just been figuring it out. And some of it's coming back to me. I'm like, man, I did this like a decade ago, and it's somewhere in my brain, which is just wild. And some of it I've just been figuring. But it's good. I still would not recommend it if you're not super into Zelda. But if you like a lot of Zelda games, you should try this one on Switch. It's a good time.
Only play it on Switch.
Specifically.
Yes,
Don't play it on Wii.
specifically on Switch. Yeah,
All right. Do we want to get to the Ode 2 for this week?
do it.
Do
Talking
it.
franchises this week. No particular
I think
reason.
I've done this.
Interesting.
It is kind of surprising. I mean, we've done rankings of top 10 games, and I feel
Gonna
like
hear
we've
a lot
gotten-
of stuff you've
We've
already
probably gotten
heard.
close to this, but for whatever reason, we haven't done specifically favorite franchises yet. So each of us picked 5 franchises. Some of these, it's not specifically the games; it's the franchise itself that.
Give me some multimedia franchises.
Some of them are, but it may
It
not
Takes
be
Two?
the games that hold it up, just
Nope.
the franchise as a whole. So
Sonic movie
We'll get
holding up
into
the
that.
entire Sonic franchise.
it's just Sonic X. That's the only thing that holds it up. So we've got 5 games. We'll each go through 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as we go. Each of us 5, and then moving down the list. I'm gonna throw it to Logan first. What is your 5th favorite franchise of all time?
Honorable mention to both Naughty Dog series I love, neither of which made this list. Last of Us and Uncharted both did not make it. Because at my number 5, I picked Mario Kart.
All right.
I was leaning Super Mario here, maybe, which also isn't in the top 5. But Mario Kart is just something that will always bring me back. When I was on the fence about getting a 3DS, I saw Mario Kart, and I'm like, yeah, I should get that. Or even a Wii U. It was that combined with Smash. It was like, I can't miss out on the new Mario Kart. And you hear me for years on this show begging for a new Mario Kart. See, I've just poured so many hours across the entire franchise, which was something kind of important to me, putting this list together, thinking about series that I like all of it. I don't just like a couple games of it and the rest I ignore. I like everything. And with the exception of like the 2D Mario Karts, I like every one from Double Dash to the present. I've sunk dozens of hours into every one, family, friends, on my own. So yeah, Mario Kart's my 5, which I didn't really realize until I was putting this together how much I really do.
I have
do love
not
Mario Kart.
played a Mario Kart in a very long time. It has been a while. I used to play it a lot back in the Wii U era of Mario Kart 8. I don't know
should
if I've
play
ever
some.
even played it on Switch.
It was nice to go
I think
back
we-
to.
I think
to
we did
Double Dash
once.
recently.
I would be surprised if we hadn't once, but yeah.
Double Dash, Kev?
Yeah, well, because I picked up a Japanese GameCube a while back and picked up a copy of Double
Oh,
Dash because
that's
I wanted to play
right.
with some friends, and I hadn't played it in at least a good 5 or 6 years, I think. And even then, that was kind of sporadic from its heyday when the GameCube was actually, the current console. So many memories of Double Dash. Mario Kart would probably be pretty high on my list as well. Did not crack the top 5 for me, but
Double Dash is great. I played it over Christmas break a lot with my sister, and 16 tracks, 16 good ones. Like, there's not a bad track in that game.
it's great. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Zach, your number 5?
My number 5, I believe. Let me double check. Yes, I gave my number 5 slot. I don't have any honorable mentions, but there's a lot of franchises that I like. I just won't talk about them. I gave my number 5 to Tekken, which is a franchise I have talked about on this show before. I've been playing Tekken since I had a PS1 as a little child. I think I started with Tekken 3 and then every subsequent game since then, and then much later down the line went back to Tekkens 1 and 2, which were pretty rough. They didn't play very well. I think Tekken 3 is where the series really hit its stride, and it's one of the best fighting games of all time. And also that's where my main character started. So going back, I didn't have my main character. And if anyone knows how I play fighting games, I just attach to one character and only know how to play that one character. Except for Smash Bros, because we do that thing where we just randomize. So now I know how to play every Smash Bros character, which is a little weird. But yeah, so going on many years, I have loved this franchise, and it is in fact a multimedia franchise because I have seen 3 of the 4 movies.
Wow, there's 4 movies.
There are 4 movies. There are 0 good movies. I like the animated. So there's a 3D animated movie, a 2D animated movie, and two live action movies. I've not seen the sequel to the live action movie because I wouldn't even call it a Tekken movie because they just take one character and they do their own thing. And I heard it was one of the worst movies to ever exist, so I didn't bother watching
Cool.
it. But yeah,
Multimedia franchise.
Exactly. And got my Tekken statue up there from Tekken 7, which has been a pretty great fighting game. It's been supported for many years. I think it came out in 2017, so it's been supported going on 5 years. I think it wrapped up with Season 4 of DLC, so it's been a fun ride and included many characters whom I love in the DLC. So yeah, this franchise is nice and alive and very, very popular in the competitive scene. So it's good to see that it still holds a lot of ground in the fighting game community.
All right, as for me, my number 5, speaking of alive, this series is very much not alive.
Oh, no.
As I was looking at it, it dawned on me how long it's been since the most recent game. It's been about 15 years since this series has had a release. I put Viva Pinata on here. There, it's a multimedia franchise too. It's got 4 games and a TV
Why is that
show.
the theme this week?
It should be. It really should
It's because
be.
Bungie's talking about multimedia. But Viva Pinata was a big part of my later childhood, later elementary school, and into junior high school. I actually watched the TV show when it was on Kids WB on like Saturdays. I would watch the show. Before I had a 360, I'd go over to a friend's house and play Viva Pinata. And then when I got my 360, Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise was one of my first games that I got. It was that and Halo were the 2 reasons that I got a 360. But yeah, just a bunch of memories playing that game, both alone and with my friend. And, like as a kid trying to figure out how things worked when we didn't realize that there was a limit on how many pinatas you could have. And we're like, we got to keep on getting rid of them. Like, why? This doesn't make any sense. But the mystery of the new pinatas that would show up and how we would have to get them and figuring these things out before we would go and search that up online. A lot of it back then in like 2006 was actually figuring out how to get them, which was always a lot of fun. And it's just a very relaxing experience. It's not super in your face. It kind of sticks to the side a little bit, but it's always a very comfortable game to play. And I hope that they'll revisit it at some point. It was also kind of weird to look back and see how short that period was where Viva Pinata was a thing. Between the first game and the most recent one, which I believe was the DS one, it was 2 years. And then there weren't any games after that for 15 years.
4 games?
4 games
in 2 years?
So there was,
That's
the
wild.
2 mainline games, the party game, and then the DS game and the TV show. So it was big for a couple of years, and then it just kind of fell off the planet. But I hope that one day Rare or somebody else, some other studio at Microsoft, comes back and takes another swing at it, because I feel like there's a lot more that they could do with that. I feel like that type of game has gotten a lot more popular recently. Like, I know that they're not the same game, but Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, I look at how big those have been for that genre of game, and I feel like Viva Pinata could really parlay that into a big new entry, but have to wait and see. Number 4, Logan?
Cool. My number 4, it itself is not a multimedia franchise, but it contains many multimedia franchise representatives. It's Smash Brothers. It's my favorite game of all time, Smash Ultimate. But as a franchise, basically the new one always kind of replaces the old. You don't really go back. Like Mario Karts, I still go back and play the old ones. But Smash, I really rarely go back to try the other one. Now that Ultimate is here. But yeah, I mean, Smash is the first game I remember buying with my own money. Melee, I've told this story before, but sitting in the Target parking lot, my mom on the phone with my dad being like, is T for teen okay for Logan to buy? Because I was like 4 years old at the time. It's like, can he get a game-rated T? And then Brawl, I ran down the Target hallway in my pajamas to pick up my copy of Brawl. Smash 4, Ultimate. I mean, Ultimate, Zach was there for the big release. Probably the most hyped you've ever seen me. Just unbelievable hype. And then
We're
the sheer
freaking out.
hours I sink into this series is unreal. And I don't know what the future holds for it. I'm sure it's not dead, but I also think it's going to undergo some sort of transformation, and I'm curious to see what that is, and because I know the games that are already out will always exist. But yeah, it's a big one for sure. 4th favorite franchise, only topped by the big three of my life, which we'll talk about in a bit.
I hope it gets a movie. Yeah.
Smash movie.
That would be a mess trying to get all those characters
Well,
in.
they're starting the
Detective
Nintendo Cinematic
Pikachu.
Universe
Yeah.
with
Sonic.
Mario.
Chris Pratt Mario.
Chris Pratt, Mario,
Donkey Kong.
Sonic.
It's like
Pikachu.
they're Avengers.
Yeah.
It's the Smash
Uh-huh.
Bros. Yeah.
Anyone
It's
else?
gonna
You said there's
Cloud
second
from
movies.
what, Advent
Hey,
Children?
Advent
or
Children?
whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Uh-huh.
Wow, what a
Ozzy,
crossover for
from
the
the
ages.
Ozzy was the main character of the really bad live action movie.
Oh, let's go.
Let's go.
There's that
Except
nasty
he's a really bad guy in that.
Pac-Man cartoon that Zach and
Yeah,
I
we
watched
watched
like
that, yeah.
2 minutes of.
Okay.
Horrible. So get
Lots
him
of
in there.
options.
The Zelda TV show
Oh, yeah.
from way back in the day. Excuse me, princess. There's lots.
Sure.
They could do it.
Live action
Multimedia.
characters, some animated characters. It'd be great.
Oh my gosh.
Jesus. Anyway, Zach, you're 4.
All right. My number 4 favorite multimedia franchise is Dishonored, which is, in fact, I've got this book right here that proves it. It's a multimedia
Wow.
franchise.
Oh my gosh.
This was in Reach, and I didn't even realize.
Halo Reach?
I got was it? Yes,
was
it was
thinking it
within
too.
Halo Reach. Yeah, Dishonored has 3 mainline games, a good amount of DLC, and a series of books which I have not read for the most part. I'm partway through that book I just showed you.
Is it any good?
The book or the series?
The book, specifically.
The
I'm
book.
sure.
Yeah, it's okay. I haven't gotten super into it, but I want to read the book following this one, so I figured I should read this one as well. The Dishonored franchise is one of the franchises where I care about the lore the most. I think the lore is super interesting in this. It's got a lot of information that you can find throughout the game, mostly out through notes and conversations and stuff like that. So it's very deep and very detailed, and these games are so fun to play through because every time you do, you discover something new, and there's always these routes you can take, and it's, a lot of fun figuring out the best stealth routes, the best murder routes. It gives you a lot of choice, and the story is fantastic, and the characters are so cool, and I love the aesthetic, and it really seems like they're building it out with some hints in Deathloop. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I love the way that Arcane Leon is taking this. So I'm definitely excited to see where the future of this multimedia franchise goes.
Okay.
The future is on Xbox.
Oh,
Yep.
exactly. Well, wherever it goes, it's going to be on Xbox.
Yeah.
Yep. Kev?
All right. My number 4, as I was talking about before, it doesn't always have to do with the games, more so the franchise itself. Sonic rolling in at number 4.
Yeah.
And that is mainly because of what it spawned for this group right here in Sonic Club.
Podcast.
Playing through all of the 3D Sonic games, all the bad ones and the good one, and
The good one.
the one good one. Again, yeah,
Ouch.
the games beyond generations either have good parts, like a good third or half, and a bad half, or they're just bad in general.
The
But-
first level.
The way that we played them as a group made them much easier to swallow. But just enjoying that with a group of people and just like having it be a part of my life for a good 2 years there, of just like a constant of any
Almost
given
every
week we're
weekend.
probably getting together and playing through the next garbage level that we got stuck on last time. And I think that Sonic lends itself very well to playing with a group of friends, because they get to see you when you are dying because the level is just so brutal and stupid. And when you're done with that level, you can pass the controller to the next person so that you can just decompress for a little bit, and then they can deal with the nonsense, and then it comes back to you eventually. I think that is the true way to play most of these Sonic games, because I don't think I would ever be able to play them by myself. But just that overall experience with you guys of playing through all of those games is very special to me, and I had to put it on.
I will
on
never
this list.
forget that one Sonic Club session where we made zero progress because I was stuck on that stupid
that the
Halloween
pumpkin
level
level?
Heroes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
With the disappearing pumpkins
For like
that
an
would just
hour, I
randomly
was just
disappear.
hammering away at that level, and I just couldn't do it.
If I
Losing
ever
my
need
mind.
a great laugh, I have some videos of Zach on my phone absolutely losing it.
I was
at the Sonic Club
genuinely
level.
frustrated.
Wearing his Knuckles hat, sitting 2 inches from the TV, screaming his head off at losing at some of these levels. And yeah, Kev, so we'll just keep the Sonic train going. It's my
Number three, yeah.
so it fits in right here. And yeah, it's interesting. Most of the time when you get together and you're playing a game with friends, you want to be the one with the controller. You're like, I can't wait for it to be my turn again. And then when you're watching, it's kind of like downtime. Okay, it's his turn. It'll be mine soon. But in Sonic Club, it's like such a team social event. It doesn't matter who has the controller because you are locked in no matter what's happening. And in some cases, you don't want it. You're like, I am glad.
Yeah, I am
that
done.
Kevin is playing this 25-minute werehog level right now and not me. So yeah, it's great. And just, I never thought going to college that Sonic would become as big a part of my life again as it. Sonic's been with me since I was in elementary school. I played it at friends' houses all the time. It's always a kind of friendship activity for me playing these Sonic games, but it was just elevated to a level I could have never foreseen. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say the most pivotal turning point moment of our college careers was us three getting together that for Sonic 06.
Sonic
I
06.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's special. It's garbage. I mean, what other series are we going to dedicate a weekly segment to on this podcast with Rumor Roundup? Nothing. Yeah. Sonic's my number 3. Not great games, but the best gaming memories, I would say, come from Sonic.
Classic
I
moments.
did
You can
not
look
take
every
that
single
into
game.
account.
Yeah, you got Zach's freak out. I remember doing some of those Rail Canyon levels in
Oh
Sonic
my gosh.
Heroes, and it's just
Spirits Unite.
just the sweat and just the terrifying feeling every time you went off one of those rails. It's like, I could die right here. Like the game could just kill me.
Don't
There
think
are so many of
we've
those
talked about
moments.
it, but we played as every team and then fought the final boss. Like we did, we
Dedication.
100%ed Sonic Heroes.
Mhm.
Awful.
It was an experience.
But yeah, some of my favorite moments, and then the fact that we made a shirt of it, and then someone at a random Arby's or
Wendy's.
or a Wendy's asked
Mhm.
us about the shirt, thinking it was some sort of actual
You guys
thing.
here for a convention? No.
Do you think we're part of the chess club or something?
Uh-huh.
Sonic
Sonic
Club.
Club.
Great stuff. Zach, you're 3.
You snubbed
mine-
Sonic,
You
Zach.
did.
Honorable mention Sonic.
I hate
Thanks for
most of his
building
games, and I
friendships.
still put them on there.
Fair enough. Well, I can't after that
Although I like your
experience I had. Exactly. So no one should be complaining because my number 3 is Yakuza, a series which Kevin got me into. So he should feel very proud right now.
Yeah.
I have genuinely enjoyed every Yakuza game I've played, and that's saying a lot because I've played a crap ton of them.
There are a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. And even the worst one, which I think was 3, was still really enjoyable. I liked 3. So this is a series that has never disappointed when I've booted it up and just loved Kiryu's journey. And every game has such a unique story, and every game has fun, goofy side quests, and always has an interesting combat system, and always just pulls these surprises out that you never expect. And even the spin-offs, Judgment, I didn't play the samurai one. What's it called? You play
Ishin and
Ishin.
Kenzen.
Kenzen?
Still waiting
Yes.
on those. There've always been like little rumors that float around. They
Mhm.
give a survey
Yeah.
out.
Let's round them up.
And,
I can't speak to those because I haven't played them, but
Yeah,
everything
play
I
Dead Souls.
have played has been crazy enjoyable. And I also
Oh,
haven't played.
also, it's a
Yakuza's
multimedia,
multimedia.
franchise.
Yep, uh-huh.
So you got a
Oh,
movie.
and we saw the movie.
That movie was
Yep.
trash.
which was bad.
And speaking of multimedia, they're working on a possible Judgment TV series.
Yeah.
And they're
So,
working on the Judgment
very
TV series
multimedia.
somehow. So
Yeah, great.
get
series.
excited for that. But yeah, this series is absolutely fantastic, and they just keep pumping them out with no end in sight.
And it's one of the few games I think that is able to do the yearly releases well. Like most of the games that you look at, you're like, man, you can feel that like they have not had a lot of time to
know.
work on this. But for the most part, beyond the reuse of maps, which I don't think is that big of a deal because they change things up, they feel different enough where it warrants having them come out every year or so.
These
Yeah.
are like long stories, and they have to write these stories and make them make sense, even though they're convoluted at times. I
Yeah,
think
sometimes.
they're pretty good. Yeah.
They're still fun. All right, my number 3 is a game that's also been kind of it was on ice for a while, but it's coming back this year. Saints Row. It
Go.
Let's go.
It was a big part of my 360 library playing Saints Row 3 for the first time. I remember couldn't buy it by myself, and I knew that my parents wouldn't buy it for me because Saints Row 3 is probably one of the most crude games you can play. And so I just had my sister go and buy it for me. So that was great. Had someone that could buy it for me. But started with Saints Row 3, then went back and played 1 and 2. 2, I think, is still the best iteration of that series. It takes GTA and makes most of it more fun. I think GTA, for a lot of people, some people play it for the story, and then you can romp around in the map. But I think Saints Row did it best at making the map fun to just cause mayhem in. And the side quests that you could do, especially in Saints Row 2, were always tons of fun. The insurance fraud was always great. A sanitation department where you're just spraying poo on everything. Like some of this stuff in like Saints Row 1 and 2 were a little ridiculous. But that's why I loved it, because there really wasn't a game like it. And Saints Row 3 and 4 to a lesser extent, haven't enjoyed them as much, but I'm very much excited for this reboot to see how they kind of bridge the gap between those first 2 games and the last 2, because that seems to be what they're doing. And I think that's what they need to do. And I think that's what'll create the best experience, is taking Saints Row 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and kind of mashing it up into one. I'm very excited to see what they can do this year with the new reboot of Saints Row. Top
It's
2s.
exciting. It's coming back.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I thought it was dead, honestly, because Saints Row 4 came out and it was like, what are they going to do after this with the superheroes? And then Agents of Mayhem came out and sold dreadfully. And so it was like, are they even going to be around anymore?
Multimedia? Multimedia franchise?
I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't think there's a book or a
Okay.
TV show yet. Agents of Mayhem, I heard, kind of felt like
Even
a
if
TV
it's
show
in
with the animation
the works,
style.
it counts.
But maybe one day. Maybe one
Okay.
day. Top 2.
My number 2, it's multimedia. It's The Legend of Zelda. And I will just always return to this series as well. It's one that I will just need to keep up on games forever, because there will never be a Zelda game that I won't want to play. Another series that's been quietly annualized since like 2011. There's been a Zelda game every year, whether it's been a remake, a multiplayer game, a spin-off, 2D, 3D, whatever. There's something Zelda every year, and I think it's another one where it's just so fun to look forward to going back to Hyrule once a year, and then every 5 years or so you get the big one. Where let me just tell you how deep my Zelda obsession is running. Man, I think theorize, read, watch videos about Breath of the Wild 2 literally every day. It's why I started replaying the entire series. It's because I am obsessing over what this game is going to be about and what it's going to be like. And it's just so fun. It's just really fun to be a Zelda fan and see how they do this world. Some things stay the same. A lot of things change. I think that the series doesn't get enough credit for how different each entry is, because on the surface, a lot of them are the same, but their stories are wildly different. The gameplay mechanics, from the wolf to the boat to the masks in Majora's Mask, it just is always changing and always evolving. A series that has redefined action adventure games, like you could argue 4 times throughout its history, from the original being groundbreaking to Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time in 3D, and now to Breath of the Wild for redefining a lot of open world. It's like it's will always push the medium forward. Once it starts to get stale, it realizes it and shakes things up. And I just love the series so much, and I can't wait to play all 19 games this year, and hopefully Breath of the Wild too.
It's a lot of
Let's hope
games.
it comes out this year.
I hope so. I cannot wait.
Zach, 2?
There was a Saints Row movie announced to be in pre-production in April 2019. So whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know. But
I do vaguely remember something about that.
We're gonna count. Yeah,
I think they need to
too,
focus on getting the game out and getting that game good, and then we
Yeah.
can talk about a TV show or a movie or whatever.
Right. My number 2, which was one of Logan's honorable mentions, is the Last of Us franchise, which has had 2 masterpieces, I would say. The Last of Us Part 1 and The Last of Us Part 2. We've talked extensively about how good these games are. We even had a spoiler cast about The Last of Us Part 2 after it came out and how much we loved it, and gave an in-depth talk. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. But these games are both fantastic. There is a TV show coming out, multimedia franchise.
It's a big deal. Everything's multimedia these days.
Everything has to be these days. They just won't stop. They got money to make, which is the most important thing. But yeah, Joel and Ellie's journey through the first game, and then where they pick up from it in the second game, it's just so good. And I played The Last of Us Part 1 many times, and I only played The Last of Us Part 2 once, and I've wanted to go back ever since, but I haven't found the right time. And now that I have a PS5, I think I'm gonna wait for the PS5 upgrade like I did for Uncharted. So hopefully, I don't know if there's ever gonna be more. Might want to capitalize on the TV show.
They're more open to it than them making another Uncharted. So
yes, which makes sense.
I'd be fine either way. Part 3.
That's how I felt after the first one.
Yeah.
I didn't think I needed the second one, and the second one came out and it was really good. So who knows? Maybe a third one will hit hard as well. Only time will tell. But yeah, that's my number 2.
All right, my number 2, Mario, specifically 3D Mario. We were talking before the show. Logan was like, "Oh, you could put, just Super Mario on there," but beyond New Super Mario Brothers on the DS that I played a lot, I really didn't play very much of the 2D games. It's really been the 3D games for me. But I have memories with every single 3D Mario game, playing Super Mario 64 at my friend's house on his N64 and doing like some of the glitching up the stairs was always super fun. We never actually played the game. It was just like, let's glitch up the stairs and go fight Bowser as soon as we can. And getting that on the Virtual Console and the Wii later. Played a bunch of Super Mario Sunshine as a kid. That game made me rage. And it's not that great of a game. It's got its charm, and I think that it cleans up graphically very well on the Switch, but it's got its issues. But I have a soft spot for it because I played it a lot as a kid. Both the Galaxy games are fantastic, and I think that revisiting Galaxy on Switch made me realize how much I like that game. Like, I played it on the Wii once, and then came back every once in a while for a couple of levels, but going through it and 100%ing it was like, man, this game is good. And besides a couple of the weird motion control sections, like, basically every single star was fun. And that's not something you can say about every single Mario game. Some of those can get real brutal. And then Galaxy 2 as well. Haven't gone back to that one since it didn't come out in the collection, but I remember enjoying it a lot. Playing through Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury was a ton of fun. And then, of course, Super Mario Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time. Like, every single time a new 3D Mario game comes out, it's a big deal. And I enjoy every single one of them. Sunshine is the weakest link, but I still have good memories with that. And I am very hopeful that there's going to be an Odyssey 2 or something in the vein of that, because I think there's a lot of untapped potential for whatever comes next for 3D Mario. I hope it incorporates a lot of those ideas from Odyssey, because it was so good, and I think they could do more with it.
I agree, man, because I like Galaxy 2 more than Galaxy 1, because I think the ideas are just even more bonkers and fun. So an Odyssey 2 could be so, so good. Or just a new game. It's been 5 years.
It's been a while, and we don't know anything, but
yeah,
I have a feeling we'll probably figure out something soon within the next year. I feel like whatever comes next, they're going to have to announce it sometime soon.
Yeah.
All right, number 1, let's do it. Logan, you're number 1.
It's Ace Attorney, duh.
All right, moving on,
Zach. You know me. My favorite stories, not just in games, in anything, is Ace Attorney. And yeah, my love was just reinvigorated last year, as you guys know, with Great Ace Attorney. And these characters and stories just live in my head like an encyclopedia. Zach tells me where he's at. I'm like, yep, I know exactly where you're at, what's happening, what evidence is going on. It's just such a brilliantly written series that deserves more credit than it gets. Because anime is so huge here now. It wasn't when Ace Attorney was first coming out, and now it is. And if you like anime storytelling and anime tropes, some of the best versions of it are in those games. They should be more popular. It's multimedia. It's got an anime. It's got manga. So multimedia franchise. It's got a live action movie.
It does. It's got
and
like a theater play. Yeah.
A musical in Japan, which I've not seen. But the movie's actually pretty good. But it's obviously Ace Attorney. Been playing it for 17 years and it's clinging on to life. I hope it continues. Because it's kind of unclear.
There's no games. And bring that.
It's rapidly becoming one of my favorites.
Play them, and I don't want to play one 3DS.
Yeah, that's fair.
Zach, you're number 1. I feel like all of our number 1s are pretty obvious.
Yeah. Rip through.
Yep, my number 1, Uncharted.
It's going to be multimedia very
franchise.
soon.
Actually, I've got the book back there.
Book?
Also, there's a motion comic, The Eye of Indra. So it has been a multimedia franchise. Thank you very much. I forgot what the book is called.
Fourth
Labyrinth.
Fourth Labyrinth.
Yeah, I bought it like a decade ago. Read through part of it. It was bad. Did not finish it. I've not touched it since, but I still own it. So that's cool. Yeah, of course it's Uncharted. My favorite game of all time is Uncharted 4, and Uncharted's 1 through 3 also great. My PS3 when I bought it came with Uncharted 2 back in 2011. And it's just been fantastic ever since. It's been my favorite franchise ever since, probably. So, yeah, like I've said, talked about it to death. So won't talk about it much more. But absolutely love this franchise to death.
Do I need to read the book before watching the movie, or am I going to be lost?
The book takes place after the movie.
Maybe I should try.
Okay, so I'll have to read the book right afterwards.
I remember very little about it.
What could Kevin's number 1 be? I don't know.
It's Yakuza, because Stardew Valley isn't a series yet. I don't really want it to be a franchise.
It's a chocolatier.
Yeah, Yakuza multimedia, that awful movie. Really bad. Maybe the Judgment TV series will be a lot better. Very similar thoughts to Zach on it. Just their ability to keep quality high, despite the fact that they're releasing one every single year, still astounds me. That basically they take similar maps and infuse a couple of new maps every once in a while, but craft entirely new stories and entirely new side stories and missions and entirely new mini games. And they're always so much fun. I've said it so many times before that there's not a game like Yakuza that has such a strength in its side content. I feel like, especially games nowadays, the side content is just checking stuff off a list, getting collectibles, or doing some like inane fetch quest for somebody. But even the fetch quests in Yakuza are more fun because the characters are so wacky and ridiculous, and it's like the fetch quest, like, oh, I gotta deliver pizza or something, just like random crap that is always so much fun. And I look forward to every single entry, and I'm never worried about the quality. And I'm very curious now that there's new head people at the studio what the future of the series is going to be. But I still have all the confidence in them that the new games that are going to be coming out after Nagoshi left will still be fantastic.
Nice, we made it.
Woo! That was a long one.
We made it.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up, Zach? Logan, you have a prediction for next week, which is why we're doing the Ode 2 this week.
Yeah, Nintendo Direct next week. I'm calling it. we're calling that we'll have to delay our show a day to record it because
Okay.
we'll get a direct on Thursday.
The Wild
Thursday
news?
next week.
Is that
I
what we're
don't
looking at?
know. I feel like Breath of the Wild's an E3 thing, but Splatoon 3, I'm gonna guess we'll get a release window. We'll see one more trailer for Kirby, a couple other surprises, new Fire Emblem probably. So I think it'll be a solid direct. There's always one in February, pretty much, and next week's the time.
All right.
Based on nothing, just my gut.
Based on gut feeling. So I guess
That's the
we'll
I hope Zelda's there. I'll lose my
we'll
mind
address
if it
that
is.
next week and see if it actually happened. And if it did, if any of those things showed up.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. Zach, any final thoughts from you before we wrap up? What's your prediction?
I predict there's going to be no Nintendo Direct next week.
No.
All right. Let's see which
One of us
one
has
comes
to be right
true.
now. Let's go.
I hope for Logan's.
Me too.
I predict that Gran Turismo 7 will get shown off in the Nintendo Direct.
Ooh.
It's going to be really
Oh,
good.
wow.
30 minutes of just Gran Turismo 7. Because that came out on PS4. Is that Gran Turismo 7? Is it this one 7?
Yeah, this is 7.
Okay, this is 7. It's Sport that
Yeah.
came out on PS4.
Sport, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I'm getting confused.
Oh,
Anyway.
but 7's also coming out on
Oh,
PS4.
it is on PS4.
Let's go.
And Switch next week. It's coming out on
Cloud
Switch.
version, yeah.
All right, that is going to do it for us on this week's episode of Oda Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. OdaGames.com has the audio version. YouTube has the video version at Oda Games. You can find us on Twitter at Oda Games as well. You can send an email to odagamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.